Welcome everyone to the October Halloween Addicts Anonymous meeting for 2024. I'm really excited to share this little project with you. I've been wanting to try a bust out canvas is what they're called. And if you know me at all, you know I can't keep it real simple. So my bust out canvas includes a little ghost cutout to give it just a little bit more dimension. But anyway, we're going to have fun creating this together. And I just wanted you to know that I do have the kits available on my website at www.justfinedesigns.com under Halloween Addicts Anonymous. And you will get your surface, which is a black canvas. Of course, you can also get it at Dollar Tree. You're going to get the Halloween candy corn napkin that we use. You're going to get the candy corn tissue paper that's on the backboard. You'll get the MDF backboard. You'll get the MDF little ghost cutout. And you will also get a tracing. So you get quite a bit of stuff. And I think it's $11 or $12 plus shipping. But all these supplies are things that you can pick up yourself, except for the cutouts, but that's another story. Anyway, you are going to need a few things. That you're going to need decoupage medium. You're going to need a large old brush to apply that decoupage medium. You're going to need a hot glue gun, an X-Acto knife or box cutter. You're going to need scissors. You're going to need a ruler, and a chalk pencil would be handy. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this. Alright, so this is my 8 by 10 black stretch canvas. It needs to be a stretch canvas. It can't be a canvas panel. So I'm just going to crack this thing open. And the first thing we want to do is we want to flip it over, and then we're going to get our napkin, and you can use any kind of Halloween themed napkin that you want. I just like the candy corn and the fact that the tissue paper is candy corn also. So what you want to do is you want to separate the plies. Hey, I got lucky. I think that this is only a 2-ply napkin, so get off easy. But if you use a different napkin, be sure to check. It could be 3-ply, and you'll have to remove another piece of the background of the napkin. And then what I want to do is I want to kind of guesstimate and cut this napkin to fit in this back here. So let's see, set this aside, get out my scissors. It doesn't have to fit perfectly, which is a good thing. It's just easier to cut it to size to start with than it is to try to do it all in one big piece. Trust me, I know. So you could probably use this again. You could probably get 2 out of this napkin if you piece it together. So I'm going to set this aside. And then what I want to do is I want to get out an old brush. This is a really old brush. And I'm going to get out my decoupage medium. And I use decoupage a lot, so I keep mine in this little stainless steel container. And what I want to do is I want to give this backside of this canvas a coat. It doesn't have to be a real thick coat. I also learned that if it's a thick coat, it takes a long time to dry. So I want to give this a coat of decoupage medium. You could use DecoArt decoupage medium. You could use Mod Podge, whatever brand you like. Of course, I like DecoArt, of course. But sometimes it's hard to find in the stores. You can order it online at Amazon. which I have done several times. So I'm just going to kind of scrub this all over. You want it to be all over the back because you want this napkin to adhere really well to the canvas. So it could take a little while to get it all covered. I've seen some people just squirt the decoupage onto the background, but I don't want it to soak in all that much. I just gonna give it a good coat. Okay, that looks pretty good. You want to make sure, especially in the corners, and just get a nice coat of decoupage medium on the back of this canvas. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this napkin on it. I think I got it on there a little crooked, but it'll be okay. Nobody will really know. And I'm okay with wrinkles. To me, wrinkles add character. And so if you have wrinkles, if you're really worried about the wrinkles, you can always get out a brayer and flatten this, but you want to make sure that it's adhered to it. So I'm going to take a bottle of paint and just kind of roll it over just to make sure I'm adhered good. If you have a lot of decoupage on your canvas, you may feel a little stickiness on your bottle of paint, but it'll be okay, trust me. So I just want to make sure that I have this all down pretty easily, pretty good. Not easily, well, it was easy. And I want to make sure it's really stuck on there. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, since the napkin is pretty well adhered to the back and we have to let it dry, let's go ahead and work on the front. And I just wanted to do something to add a little character to the canvas. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to spatter it with some warm white. And so however you like to spatter, I like to take a big brush. I'm going to use that brush that I applied the decoupage with. And I'm going to thin down some warm white paint. And I'm just going to I'm going to spatter all over this canvas. And it's kind of heavy, just to break up that black a little bit. Yeah, it's nice and heavy. That'll work. And I want to also go ahead and add a line around the border with foliage green. You could use foliage green, you could use Irish moss. Either one of those will work. I just wanted to dry these spatters just a little bit so that I don't wipe them out and smear them and that kind of stuff. All right, so a little foliage green and a liner brush. And we're just going to very nervously line a little stripe around the edges. Doesn't have to be straight unless you want it to be straight. So about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch off the edge of the canvas. And all I'm doing is kind of tying in. We're going to use a little bit of green on the ghost, so I wanted to put the green somewhere else on this piece. Just kind of share the color. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to take a career to do this. I'm not going to highlight or shade, surprisingly, this stripe. I did try to keep this as simple as I could, but you know me, I get carried away. Thick, thin, nervous line, all four sides. One more thing to do to this canvas, and then we can just set it aside to dry. Because that inside decoupage napkin needs to dry. And so I also like to pull some of the orange that's in the napkin and the tissue paper. So I'm going to get out a little bit of burnt orange, and I'm going to go ahead and use my 1/2 inch flat brush. I'm not going to really add any water to the paint, but what I want to do is just to add some interest to the side edge, I'm going to go ahead and add some stripes. And all I do, they don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to paint them on there and then kind of gauge where the next one needs to go by the width of my brush. And it doesn't have to be opaque. It doesn't have to be straight. You'll see that I couldn't paint a straight stripe if I wanted to. So just going to go all the way around this canvas, adding some burnt orange stripes just to give it some interest too on the sides. So I think you get the idea. So I will continue with this, and I'll be back with our next step. All right, so checks all the way around. I think it already looks very spooky. And the next thing we're going to do is you're going to need a ruler and a chalk pencil. I like to use a see-through ruler. It's kind of a quilting thing. And this doesn't matter at all. Don't worry about marking on the front of your canvas. I'm going to go corner to corner and kind of pick where my center is on this canvas, so I know where to start my cuts later on. All right, so center discovered. All right, let's set this guy aside, and we will work on our backboard. All right, so we need to give this backboard a coat of warm white. If we didn't, then the tissue paper would not look as bright and white as it does on the finished project. So it doesn't have to be a nice opaque coat. You just want to lighten that background up a little bit. My brush was wet, so it's kind of thinned white, but it'll be just fine. You just need to get that white on there to reinforce the white in the back of the tissue paper. Okay, quick and easy. So we need to let this dry, and then we're going to decoupage that candy corn tissue paper onto this backboard. And believe it or not, that's all we do to the backboard. Now, if you wanted to go crazy and add rubber stamps or stenciling or something to the background, you can go ahead and do that. And that may happen in something else I create. But for this guy, I thought the candy corn in the background, I wanted the ghost to stand out, and the candy corn in the background did that for me. So you just need to get this dry. And that's pretty dry already. If you don't have one of these Ranger heated craft guns, you really need to invest in them. It is awesome. So So now what I'm going to do is put my scissors away. I'm going to decoupage that piece of tissue paper onto my piece. Now I cut the tissue down so it will fit a little nicer. And again, this is tissue paper, so it doesn't need a whole lot of decoupage. So I always like to put like a little bit, and again, wrinkles are fine. Wrinkles give character. Isn't that what they tell us about our faces? Your face has a lot of character if it has a lot of wrinkles on it. I prefer not to have quite as much character as I have, but oh well, it'll be okay. And I'm just smoothing this out with my hand. And there we go. We're getting it done. So we need to set this aside to dry. And then we're going to take an emery board or a file or sanding disc, whatever you have handy. And we're going to remove the excess tissue from the side edges, but for right now we can just set it aside and let it dry. All right, next stop is going to be our little ghost. So what I want you to do first, excuse my voice, is I want to give your ghost a coat of bleached sand. All right, so I gave my ghost one coat of bleached sand. And then what I did is the second coat, I picked up bleached sand and warm white, about 1 to 1, and I gave that a coat because the bleached sand was a little too brown, but I didn't want it to be white yet. So 50-50 bleached sand and warm white for your second coat on your ghost. Dry this guy, and then we'll put the pattern, we'll sand him lightly, and then we'll put the pattern on. Feels pretty dry. All right, so I'm going to put the pattern on, and I will be back. All right, so put the pattern on. I did use gray graphite. You want to use a really light touch, all right? So we are going to dry brush some highlighting on our little ghost with warm white. So I need a little bit of fresh warm white, and we are going to dry brush warm white wherever you can fit your brush, all right? You just want to lighten this guy up a little bit before we shade him down. Okay. So I'm going to dry brush across his forehead. And you might think you can't see it, but it really does show, especially after you get the shading on it. You want to get inside his glasses a little bit and below them. You can go right across his mouth. It'll be okay. So I'm just going to go all over this little guy, down on his arms. Above the bow tie, below the bow tie. Need to do the highlighting and shading first before we base in anything, because it's just easier to do it all before. You're not dry brushing on top of stuff that you had to paint in so painstakingly. All right. I'm going around those letters. Almost done here. All right, it's looking pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do is we are first going to float some very well blended out Moody Blue on our little guy. So when I want to blend stuff out really well, instead of staying in the same line where you normally blend your floats, you want to walk away a little bit so that it gets a little bit softer. It leaves a little bit more paint on the palette. And I'm just going to lighten up these pattern lines a little bit, just because I can. These guys just get floats, so the arms need to have a little bit lighter pattern. All right, so we are going to float Moody Blue on the bottom of his arms. So let's come here. See, it's nice and soft. And if you have a mop brush, that would be really great. It would help to soften and blend those floats out. And he looks pretty blue right now, but we're going to come back and we're going to float some Moody Blue plus a touch of Lamp Black, and that's going to soften him up a little bit. Soften those floats up a little bit. So he has, I'm going to go ahead and float inside the glasses, inside the top of the glasses a little bit. Again, I'm going to use my mop brush to soften that. Both glasses, I'm going to do inside, just the top. Let's go ahead and float around the bow tie. I guess I could go do his other arm, huh? Let's go ahead and do his other arm before we forget. We being me. Okay. All right, looking pretty good. Scrub out that little line, water line. And we need to float around that bow tie. Oop, little heavy. I'm really going to need to mop that out. And I am going to go all the way around the bow tie. I like to do shading around things before I base them in. Then I don't have to be quite as careful. This mop brush does wonders to soften your floats. Okay, let's go ahead and go under his little nose piece on his glasses. I'm going to go above the little nose piece. All right, let's go around his arms, so to be on his body, but around each arm. When you get here in this area, kind of walk that color down a little bit. It's a V area, so that's what you want to do, is round out that float a little. let's go ahead and do on this arm. Same thing. All right. We also want to go down the right side of his body. So nice wide float here, but still very well blended out, okay? So I'm going to start here down at the bottom of his skirt and come up. I'm going to widen this pretty much. I'm going to come here and go. Now you can see why I didn't want to base in those glasses yet. And I'm going to go across the top of his head about halfway, 2/3 of the way. I'm going to soften that float. And I think I want to widen it just a little bit in this area. So I'm going to drop a little bit more color in there. And again, mop brush works wonders. All right, let's see, where else can we go? We can go under those glasses, just a touch. Very soft float. All right. And we're going to put away the flat brush. We're going to get out our dry brush. This is an old one of mine. I don't know if I can use it anymore. Let me dry my dry brush. And what we want to do is we want to dry brush some shading into these folds. We're going to do that with Moody Blue. So I'm going to start in this middle one, and you can just go through the letters. So I'm going to just dry brush kind of a V shape, a tornado shape up. Just where these kind of dip up. My brush wasn't quite dry enough, but we'll make it work. Okay, we're just going to give it some dimension. All right. Go ahead and wash your dry brush out. Let's dry it really good. Better than I did last time. And I'm going to pick up some warm white and I'm going to dry brush highlighting on those folds on the skirt in between where I did the shading. Okay. And we can kind of soften this one a little bit. It got a little dark. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to do a little bit on this side here, even though it's shaded. I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, I think I need just a little bit more in here. Okay, looking pretty good. So now what I want to do is I want to go back and reshade a few areas with the Moody Blue Lamp Black mix. So it's Moody Blue blended out And then just a touch of lamp black. So you get kind of a gray blue. And again, this needs to be very well blended out. And we are going to float this along the bottom of the arms. And again, mop brush. I'll go ahead and do this other arm. Well, that looks much better. That shading adds a lot. I am going to go around the arms, deepen that shading a little bit. It's not going to go everywhere, but it's going to go a lot of places. Okay. Let's go around this other arm. We want to go down the right side of his body and head again. I'm going to mix up a little bit more. I'm going to start here at the bottom again. And let's start at the top of his head. It's not going to go quite as wide as the first float did. All right, let's go around the bow tie. And then I think we can call it good. All right. Oh, he's looking cute. We are going to float a highlight on the top of his head on the left side and across the top of his little arms and hands, and that's going to be with warm white. So I'm going to go right across the top of his arm just to make that stand out a little bit more. Okay, and then on the left side of his head a little bit. All right, looking good. So let's go ahead and paint in his eyes with lamp black. Paint in that whole oval. didn't have enough caffeine. Or maybe I had too much. I'm a little shaky. Or it could just be getting old. All right. Eyes painted in. We can go ahead and work on his glasses. And you can go ahead and paint his mouth. It's a little thicker. I always add little stirrups to the sides of the mouth, just so you know where the smile ends. Now, on the glasses, there's the little arms here. I don't want you to paint those black, okay? So don't paint those right now. But right now, we just want to work on the rims of the glasses. And just go slow. No hurrying. If you get in a hurry, you mess up. So don't get in a hurry. Alrighty, one done. If you want to make them a little thicker, you can. See, I'm trying to hurry. I kind of messed up. But it'll be okay. All right. We also want to go ahead and paint in the letters with lamp black. So I'll do that and I'll be back. All right, so I got my little eyeglasses a little wonky right there, so I'm going to go ahead, just float some warm white just to fix that little area there. It was bugging me. All right, we need to give our little guy some cheeks, and his cheeks are done with dragon fruit, and I just dry brush them on. If you want, you can stipple them on. You can wash them on with some thin dragon fruit. I'm just going to dry brush, and yes, it's going to go over his eyeglasses. Should have thought about that before, but I didn't. So I'm just kind of avoiding the eyeglass and just giving him some nice round dragon fruit cheeks. It's really not that hard to avoid the eyeglasses. Okay, so he's got some cute little pink cheeks. Let's go ahead, and with our liner brush, he does have some little eyebrows. So with a liner brush, and if you can get into that Moody Blue Lamp Black mix, or if not, just mix up a little more, because his little eyebrows are the Moody Blue Lamp Black mix thinned down. So just little eyebrows on our little guy. And his eyes, we're going to take our flat brush and we're going to do a C-stroke float of Moody Blue in the bottom of each eye. And I always do it I don't set it all the way down in the bottom of the eye. I like to leave a little rim of lamp black showing in the bottom of the eye. So I'm just doing a little C-stroke of Moody Blue in the bottom of each eye. I'm going to go ahead and make this one a little smaller. I just flip my brush over and to the clean side and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit just to make it a little bit more definite. Alright, he's a cutie. We're going to dry brush a little bit of warm white in the top of each eye. Right? We're going to take our liner brush and some Moody Blue and some warm white mixed together. We want a lighter value Moody Blue. We're going to line a highlight on that blue stroke in the eyes. So I'm just going to go through the center of that blue stroke, just to highlight it a little bit. He's got some little eyelashes. I'm going to take my liner brush and some thinned lamp black and just give him a few little squiggly eyelashes. Makes him look cute. And then he has some highlights in his eyes with warm white. So just your liner brush and warm white. And I'm going to do the larger highlight in the top left of each eye. It's just like a set down. And then I'm going to go diagonally across from that and do a smaller highlight that straddles the blue and the black, okay? So just a little smaller highlight. And as long as we're using warm white to highlight with our liner brush, let's go ahead and line a highlight on those eyeglasses. So I'm going to go across the nose, and I'm going to go in the left side of the rims. And then I'm also going to go just a little bit in the right, lower right side of the rims. Now those arms that I told you not to paint with the lamp black, you're going to do the Moody Blue. No, you're not. You're going to do lamp black and warm white. You want a gray, a really light gray. Lots of warm white, a little bit of lamp black. And I'm just going to paint those in with the gray. And we'll come back and finish them in just a little bit. The mouth has just a little line of dragon fruit through the center. Let's go ahead and paint our bow tie with burnt orange. Okay. probably should have just used a smaller brush. Would have gone a lot faster. So I just changed to a round. Doesn't have to be opaque. There's a lot of stuff on top of it. Ooh, we're almost getting to the fun part, guys. There's a few more things to do on this little ghosty, and we'll be good. So while we let the bow tie dry, we are going to go ahead and with a liner brush and lamp black, you just want to touch a little shading on those arms right where they meet the frames. So I'm just kind of lining a little bit of shading. Now what I want to do is I want to take a side load float of warm white, and I want to float that on those arms to make them look like they're fading into the ghost. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the brightest color at the end of the frame and just kind of float warm white. Now you can kind of tap and blend it into the ghost a little bit, but you just want to kind of make it look like those arms go into his head and get lost, okay? It might take a couple of floats. I'm going to go ahead and dry this and do it again. But you want it to look like it's disappearing into that ghost who's kind of see-through, but not really. All right. All right. That looks pretty good. I still need to let that bow tie dry a little bit. So let's go to our letters. And what I want to do with my letters is I want to take that lamp black moody blue mix, so that bluish gray, and I want to thin it down quite a bit, and I'm just going to line a shadow on the left side first of each letter on the ghost next to the letter. There's a little bit inside each of those B's. So left side of the O. Just going to pop them off the background a little bit. There's a little bit inside the O's. And then I also did just a little bit in the on the right side. Not all the way, just a touch. Lower right. While we're letting that dry, if you want, you can go ahead and if you have a pen, like a permanent ink pen, I want to say like a Sharpie or a Pigma pen. This is a Pigma pen. I'm just going to add that stitching along the bottom of his skirt. Much easier than doing it with your brush, but if you don't have like a Sharpie, a black Sharpie or a black Pigma pen, you can always do it with your liner brush and thinned lamp black. But his bottom of his little skirt needed a little something something, so we put some stitching along the bottom here. Just kind of adds to the cuteness. Let's go ahead and get out a little bit of moon yellow. And what we're going to do is we are going to dry brush, highlighting on that bow tie with moon yellow. Getting quite a colorful array on my hand. So I'm going to do the knot, and I'm going to do the ends here just with moon yellow dry brush. The bow tie has little foliage green dots on it, and you can use your stylus or the back of your brush to dot them, but they're going to take a long time to dry, so it's up to you. I'm just going to put mine on with my liner brush. So that they dry a little faster. And there's no rhyme or reason to how these are on here. Just put them on. But we do highlight each dot with a dot of moon yellow, so keep that in mind. At least it's not a float or anything. So just some foliage green dots on the bow tie. Okay, almost there. One more. So we'll let those dots dry. We'll go back to our lettering, and what we're going to do is we are going to float some foliage green in the top half of each letter. So just to give them a little bit more interest and to tie that green in a little bit more, I'm going to float some foliage green in the top of those letters. All right. Cool. Let's see, we can go ahead, and if you want to put the pattern on for this string, you can, but I'm just going to wing it, and I'm just going to line the string that's that he's holding the letters with thinned lamp black. So I'm going to connect the letters to each other. And then I'm going to add the string around his arm. Has a couple of little ties, and then it comes down and connects to the letter. All right, and of course those are going to get a highlight of warm white, the string. So thin down a little warm white with your liner brush and just kind of hit and miss so they stand out a little bit more. Okay, so we can go back to our bow tie now, and what we're going to do is we are going to get some heritage brick out, and we're going to float some shading on our bow tie. So I'm going to go on the ties next to the center knot. Yes, it goes right over those green dots. I'm going to go in the bottom of the knot. And I'm going to go across the bottom of the loops, but I'm going to start up the side a little bit. Kind of walk some color into that bottom corner of the loop. Okay, just a couple more little things. Let's go ahead and float a highlight across the top of the loops and the center knot with moon yellow. We want to line some gathers next to the knot on the loops with thinned heritage brick. Just a few little gathers coming out from the knot. And then you can add those highlight dots of moon yellow to the green dots. Nothing too spectacular, but just to make them stand out a little bit. And you don't even have to do all of them, because some of them are so far into the shadow area that it wouldn't make sense. All right, so let's see. Anything else we need to do? Oh yes, we need a final bright highlight across the top of the knot and the ties. So I'm going to dry this real quick so I can just line that little highlight. And it's just a warm white highlight with your liner brush. Just a little bit of a smudge on your knot, center knot, and then on the top of the loops. Wish I could remember what I call things. All right, so he's pretty done. So now what we can do is we can go back to this guy, and we're going to go ahead and sand the excess off. It doesn't take long. Just use a little emery board or your sanding block. I think I've used this one a few times, so it's not as crisp as it should be, but it'll do the job. It really doesn't matter if there's little pieces extra. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in my hot glue gun so it can get warmed up. I think I'm going to get a new little sander. See if this one looks better. All right. Get rid of those scraps. All right. So we can set that aside. We're not going to glue our little ghost to it just yet. But doesn't he look cute on there? And let's get our canvas back out. And we'll work on it. All right, so I got at my X-Acto knife. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a slice through the center, that little X that I did. And you find that with the X-Acto knife, it's good to start this process. But then you're going to turn this over and get out your scissors. Scissors are much easier for this part. So I've got my little hole cut through here, my little X. So I'm just going to cut maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch to the edge. And I'm going to do another one. So I'm just going to cut these flaps into my canvas. They don't have to be all the same size. But you do want a few of them. All right. Cool. Cool beaners. That's what my friend used to say. Let's see if my glue gun is hot yet. It's not quite. So I'll be back when my glue gun is hot. Alright, so my glue gun is kind of hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these flaps, fold it over, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the candy corn side of it. I'm going to burn myself, I just know I will. And then you curl that under and glue it in place. Hold it there for a minute. Warm up your finger real well. And you're just going to go around and do that to every flap. Just try not to burn your fingers. Alright, it's looking kind of cool, I think. Doesn't really take that long. You've got a pretty fantastic breakout canvas. All right. Just think what you could do. All the possibilities, all the decorated napkins out there. Almost there. And hold it there for just a minute. This one wants to pop away. Last one. Easy peasy. Now, if you don't want to go through the trouble of painting something to go in this opening, you can always find a really cool napkin and decoupage it on your backboard. But anyway, so we got that going for us. So now what I want to do is I want to glue this backboard into my canvas, into the back of my canvas. And I'm going to be liberal with the glue gun around here. Let's see, another glue stick going. Alright, and now I'm just going to put this into the back of my canvas and press it in. Alright, so I have my backboard glued in. Now I need to decide which way I want to be the front. So I'm going to take my little ghost, and he can just slide right under some of those flaps. And let's see, it's going down there. And you can kind of center him into place where you want him. And then I would just use a couple dots of glue from the glue gun, or if you wanted to, you could use regular glue. I'm going to put him where I want him on this piece. Don't press too hard because you'll press your backboard out. But there you go, voila. You have this cute little ghost and a bust out canvas. So I hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it encourages you to do lots more. I know I want to do lots more. But simple, creative. Whoever thought of this was a genius. I just had a really good time creating this, and I hope you do too. And I will see you next month for Halloween Addicts Anonymous.